the book of Mark, chapter 3, verse 20, 22. And the scribes which came down from Jerusalem said, He hath Beelzebub, and by the prince of the devils cast he out devils. And he called them unto him, and he said unto them in parables, How can Satan cast out Satan? And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. Call Holo Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rahahakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone, peace and salutations to the hopeful elect scattered throughout the four corners of the globe. My name is Barad Debal, coming to you from the GMS campus, Indianapolis. And to all those listening and learning to you, I say Shalom, especially to you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians that make up the 12 tribes of Israel. As you can see, this was a statement that, at the time of Yahweh Shai, the scribes, came and pretty much calling Yahweh Shai a devil. And, Yahweh Shai was, doing miracles and healing of the people. But the statement in which Yahweh Shai is made is something that we actually are seeing that has happened and currently see happening to this day. When I make it saying it has happened, because, of course, at one point in time, the children of Israel was all together under David. But then that time of peace, 40 years under Solomon. But after Solomon, the house was rent. It was tore apart. Okay, the northern southern kingdom, the so-called blacks, and then the Hispanic tribes, Native Indian tribes had split. And of course, there had been a great divide for, quite a bit of time. And so, of course, through the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, he has brought us, back to Yahweh through his death, through his sacrifice, right, and giving us the spirit to understand. So as we have looked through the history and seen how Israel, the Lord's chosen people, have fought against each other. And there hasn't been any unity among the tribes for quite some time, that now in the last days, he is now bringing the tribes back together again through the spirit of Yahweh Shai. Let me get this, because so we know if that's going to be the case, how much more these other nations, being against themselves. Let's see. Oppressed together. This is Jeremiah chapter 50 verses 33 and 34. It says, Thus said the Lord of hosts, say the Lord, his army, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together. See, we were split apart. Of course, the northern kingdom going into the Assyrian captivity, and of course Judah, Benjamin, and Levi remaining. But then eventually, the northern kingdom after Assyria captivity, as it tells us in the book, in the Apocrypha, the 10 tribes coming over here to Azareth, which was also, we also know as America. And then later on, the northern kingdom, going into captivity or fleeing into Africa, going into captivities and brought here over into the Americas. So that's history that can all be searched out and looked up, especially in these times, and confirmed. But now, as we speak, it tells us that Jeremiah 50 and 33, it says, Thus said the Lord of hosts, the children of Judah, Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captive held them fast in slavery, right? They refused to let them go. And so, of course, in these last days, we have come under the oppression of Esau Edom, the so-called white man, who the earth has been given unto, according to Job 9:24. The earth has been given into the hand of the wicked. And it says, their Redeemer is strong. Who's the Redeemer of the children of Israel? Yahweh Shai. And he says, the Lord of hosts is his name. He shall thoroughly plead their cause. He's going to fight for the children of Israel in these last days, that he may give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. So pretty soon, in these times, we know that modern day Babylon is here in the Americas, and he's going to disquiet the inhabitants. And how is he doing that? He's doing that through many things, and one of the devices is that the enemy, just like Israel at a time, the enemy is now greatly divided, and that's a part in which we've seen that this land and the people are becoming more weak. Okay, you have the women, their women going against their men. One moment. You have the women, they're speaking against their men. You have other men. Actually, let me get this here. I think I already have it, but I think I got it already. The women speaking against their men. Let me see if I can get this back. Salakia. Let's play this.
The CDC was just busted for hiding a study.
So you have many companies that are going under. You have, and when I said the women speaking against their men, when you go all throughout social media, the so-called white woman is cleaving more and more to the so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American man. And you're seeing it all throughout social media. A lot of them making statements, their preference being the so-called Black man. And so that it also is a sign of a nation, being divided against itself, right? And casting out itself, because of course, the white man needs, of course, the white woman and other women in order to bear seed and continue on their nation. If you look into the population as far as bearing children, you notice that they are at the lowest amongst all the other nations, having a hard time having children. And so, of course, just like so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, like in Egypt, when you go into the book of Exodus, you'll find that even with all the oppression and the rigor that was placed upon the people, they still were able to lay down sexual relations with their wives and increase in children in number. And so, of course, back then, they were looking and trying to find crafty ways to deal with the people, and such is what they're doing now. And so when they're trying to slow down the birth rate. But the main point is this division. So this was one. I got a couple things we're going to read about the CDC, and because they have been in the news. You've had where Trump was looking to and I forget her name. I'll see if I can find it. But Trump was actually in the process looking to fire the head leader, the CDC. I'm not sure if he did it yet, but in the process of doing talking about firing her, many head officials had walked out for the CDC. And so I just came across this, and then I'm gonna pull up some other things. But we know that the Center of Disease Control Center, they pretty much, when it came down to the C19 and many of the stick and pricks for children, all of these things, they have their hand in those and a few other, quite a bit of other things, for these they were created for. But we'll go into it. Here we go. Click this.
About autism.
Start this over.
In case you missed it, the CDC was just busted for hiding a study about autism. 1,135% increase in autism in the hepatitis B vaccine, and the CDC lied this entire time.
Now, this isn't medical, information. This is just something that I came across. And again, you have to, just like anyone else, go a little bit further and look up some of the things, because people on social media will sometimes make statements that aren't true. But I'm just wanting to bring this out, and I got like a couple things we're just going to read into. So we always got to be careful, as far as the information, to always go back and fact check certain things too. Here we go.
These demons knew exactly what their shots do, and it's not just the hepatitis B shot. They knew this entire time. So I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. People will be arrested for that. That is crimes against humanity. The 1986 Vaccine Injury Act will be turned over. And these sons of bitches are going to be sued into oblivion for what they have done to humanity. This is one of the greatest days I have ever had in my life. I have been screaming this for 7 years. And many way longer than that. Get on your knees and thank God for this administration and for this revelation. We knew it. All the conspiracy theorists were right. And what they have done is so disgusting. In case you missed it, the CDC was just busted for hiding a study.
All right. So, she made some statements. Of course, the earth, the people who are running this earth, they're not going to be in trouble. Let's get this. It's the book of Proverbs, chapter 73, and it reads. I'll read at 1. It says, "Truly, the Most High is good to Israel." He says, "Even to such that are of a clean heart. But as for me, my foot were almost gone; my steps had well nigh slipped. For I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked." Okay, so at one point in time, we know the children, the Lord is with Israel. But being in here in the Americas and seeing America prosper and the people gain wealth, and then see the evil that they're doing, to our people and all over the world, and they still continue to prosper, it is a thing that would make you envious, want to be, can't beat them, join them type of spirit. But the Lord also told us in Proverbs, it says, envy not the wicked and choose none of his ways. For the froward is an abomination unto the Lord, but his secret is with the righteous, right? So he eventually gave us the knowledge, the understanding, started with our head apostles and elders and those that teach the likewise doctrine of why they were prospering, right? Because, again, as I mentioned before, the earth was given into the hand of the wicked. Right. And we know that there was going to, and now we know, and we're in the time where there was going to be a time in which it was going to be made known, who he is. All right. And I think I have a couple scriptures, to show that the Lord, we always bring this out in the Thessalonians. He says the Lord will now let, and will let, he who will now let until he take him out of the way. Right. It says the mysteries will be made known. So we'll maybe get a scripture too on that. But so it says, for there is no bands in their death, but their strength is firm. You just continue to see them grow, and get old and pass, things down to their children, and in complete wickedness. Right? It says they are in trouble as other men. It says neither are they plagued like other men. So as she was saying, with them being in rulership, their people aren't seeing the trouble or receiving the troubles in which they would to receive. Like, for example, so-called black man steal a candy bar, it'd be like his first or second strike, whatever. They had the 3-strike rule, but he's still a candy bar. He could end up getting 5 to 10 years in prison. All right, just throwing it out there. Just throwing out a number, but you let that happen, like a woman, run over people, and kill several, and she pretty much gets a slap on the wrist, or maybe a year or two in jail. And so these are type of things that you see that, and of course the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians have also seen throughout the Americas because of the rulership. And so now the Lord, seeing that they're not in trouble and they're not dealing with the same troubles, the Lord actually has saved them for a time. This is the book of let's see if it comes up this way. Proverbs chapter 6, verse 4 says, the Lord have made all things for himself, yea, even the wicked for the day of evil. So the wicked, he's created the wicked, to do the evil, to bring the evil times, the bad times. But he's also going to use them against themselves. Of course, you have Prudent, and the America, though you see them out having meetings together, talking about peace talks and things like that, knowing that the scriptures say that there's no peace, saith the Lord, unto the wicked. And you see them having peace talks, but then in turn, Putin now is like joining meeting with China, and they're having showing their military. China's showing their military. And of course, we know that there's been economic and other conflicts between China and the Americas. We know that Venezuela, there's a situation going on there with Venezuela and the Americas. And of course, so we got this in-house fighting. I'm using the CDC as a, I guess you would say a conduit, or point of reference. We got this infighting amongst the people. You got troops being set up, American troops set up in different cities, which is drawing and causing tension. And then you also have, this fighting outside of the Americas, with the different nations. Let's get this real quick. Matthew 24 chapter, KJV. This is the book of Matthew chapter 24 verses 3, verse 2. It says, and Yahushua said unto them, it says, see ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. So of course, he's talking about the temple, but but everything in which Yahushua has done, he's also doing, when he did it there in Jerusalem, there in Israel. Things are manifesting itself globally, right? So all the things in which Esau Edom has built in this land, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, he's going to throw it down. Okay, it's going to be, everything is going to be uncovered, and everything's going to be revealed. And we're in the time of that, and we see verse 3. Okay, he says, and he sat upon the Mount of Olives, and the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and the end of the world? All right. So some of the things that we mentioned in this video, and of course many other of the other prophets have mentioned. All right. And Yahushua answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Hamashiach, and shall deceive many. You got many false prophets that coming up. You got women and other people standing up, claiming to have the way to salvation, right? Whether it be collecting of guns, you have the guys coming on, what's the name? That morning show with the New York morning show with Charlemagne. They call him Charlemagne the God. You got people coming on. These guys come on talking about the new currency that's coming, right? And pushing that as a new best thing for our people. And there's a lot of other things that we could dive into, but let's stick to the point of this division. It says, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, and that's what's going on currently, right? Got Israel, who's had Ukraine, Israel and Gaza, Israel and Iran. You got Ukraine. And even speaking of Afghanistan, there was, I believe it was the earthquake there where, at the point I seen it, it was 1,000 as far as the death toll. It says, nation rising against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. And now you see that famine going on in Gaza, right? You have the pestilence, you have the diseases that are happening all over the earth. California, the bubonic plague. There's been an increase in, they say, the HIV, and here in the Americas, the two main places that have been mentioned is Texas and Georgia. And so said there's been an increase in disease rates here in Indiana. So many of these states are increasing. Why? Because of the lewdness, the lewd acts, right? You got women sleeping with all kind of men, and you have men, committing adultery. There's a bunch of spiritual and physical adultery, and a lot of debauchery, and then people bringing it back to their homes. And so, so you have just again, I did a video some time ago. It talks about, a madhouse. So you just have a madhouse, of, that we're living in currently. Everywhere you turn, everywhere you look. Just seen a video where someone drove into a crowd of people again, right? We just had the mass shooting. People drove into a crowd of people. Someone drove into a crowd of people, and they said killing 15. So I'm gonna go back and check on that video. But so it's just a madhouse. Everyone, going their own way. And as it tells us in Proverbs chapter 29, verse 2, it says, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. And currently the people are in great distress and mourning. And and as he says in verse 8, Yahushua says, and all these are the beginning of sorrows. This is just the beginning. Okay. So let's get a few other scriptures. I actually was going to pull up an article. Well, it's not an article. I just did. Let's pull this up real quick. This is, I just did a random autism study of CDC in trouble. And then it says the CDC faces controversy after announcing plans in March 2025 to study the debunked link between vaccines and autism. Okay, it says a decision criticized by public health experts for diverting resources from crucial research and potential spreading misinformation, although it was framed by some as a way to address parental concerns separately. In March 2025, CDC report showed increased autism prevalence. So just the point here, you can see that they're from what the lady's talking about, she might have went a little bit deeper, but there has been a concern, about getting your children pricked and going through certain regimens that the doctors see. They're all in on it. It's like you hear, oh, they said that it was good, then they follow, and of course, we're not going to go any further there, but let's touch on this here. This is another one that says CDC staff. I put people walking out. It says CDC staff participated in a walkout protest gathered for a rally on August 28, 2025, in support of senior official who resigned in protest of Trump administration's action to remove CDC director, that's her, Susan Monterez. It says the protesters called for an end to political interference in public health, and with the resignation stemming from disagreements over policy changes demanded by the administration, including calls for support of a new, as you see it, policies, the firing of high-level staff. So it was said that pretty much she wasn't in agreement with what was about to be that they want to administer. Okay, they weren't in agreement and went against it. Again, a nation divided. In the past time, they would go with whatever was being pushed. So as we can see, that's where we're at in this time. Okay, people are speaking up against their own government and the things that they apply. You have a good day. So let's get these last few scriptures. This is the book of Isaiah chapter 63, verse 1. And he says, and this is KJV, and there's other, but the one main part I wanted was 1. He says, who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Basra? Says, this that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. I speak in righteousness mighty to save. Well, I didn't want to actually get that, but eventually, all these things that are happening since I brought it out, Yahweh Shai is going to return to bring down Esau, Edom, his government, right? It's going to bring down this system. And in the process of doing so, he's going to be saving the righteous. Okay, so let's go. Matter of fact, let's see. Let's get to. It says, wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garments like him that treadeth in the wine fat? Because the Lord, when he comes, there's going to be mass death, right? He said the fire shall already be kindled, when he returns. All right, because and that's what's happening. We actually see There's a lot of things that are actually going on. And again, we're just today just touching on just one particular situation. But there's mass, death, earthquakes, people, shark bites, just a lot of things that are happening in his day to day. All right. And it says, I have trodden the winepress alone, and of the people there was none with me. It says, for I will tread them in mine anger and trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will slay all my raiment. It says, for the day of vengeance is in mine heart, and the year of my redeemed is come. Right. So the Lord is coming with fury. He's coming with anger, and he's coming also to save his people. But here's the thing. As this is before this happens, he's going to uncover, Esau, Edom. All right. This is the book of and he's going to make it known. OK, this is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 49, verse 10. It says, but I have made Esau bare. I have uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself. OK, because now people are recognizing who he really is. And they're calling out right now. We even have the Amalekites, the head elites, those that claim to be the children of the Lord. They're even being called out and pointed out on a lot of the wickedness and evilness that they've done. I was just listening to the elder GMS Inspirations and Salakia on the name, but he just had almost a whole 20-minute video or so, where it's just showing the evil and all the things that these Amalekites being called out on a lot of things. So now they're being made known with all the things that they've been doing in the world. And this is just, again, to make the word of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai word be true. Okay, so this is the book of Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 7. It says, all the men that of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. So those that they were joined with, those that they were making, money moves with, those that they had under their wing, they had in control, at a time, those that they even had subdued, we could say Russia for a time went dormant. But then, the last several years, they came back as this world power. They even had China at one point, in major agreements with them, and a lot of things that was happening. You notice a lot of imports and things were coming from China. And now you see that a lot of people who were in agreement and confederate in a league with them are now trying to create their own dollar or monetary systems, trying to break apart from this place as well. It says, the men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. So though you see them join together and they having meetings, and people are how do I say, people are, seeing it as a show outwardly. Internally, these people, we know Yahweh Bashim Yahushai has got them turning against each other, right? It says, they that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in them. So those that made that money with them, right? It says, shall I not in that day, saith the Lord, even destroy the wise men out of Edom and the understanding out of the mount of Esau? Because again, all the things in which at one point in time, when things happened on the earth and they got up and they spoke on it, they could, what we say, control the narrative. They can no longer control the narrative because knowledge have increased upon the earth. And as knowledge has increased upon the earth, which, through the internet, and of course, the true information through the prophets, it's it's been made hard for them to control the narrative and to be able to hide themselves behind the things that they did before. So when like a major event happened, like how things are coming up about 9/11, the many different talks on that. Just an example of many things. Everything in which they've done, like the CDC, right? Everything that they had their hands on, the Lord is uncovering it. He's making it known. Let's get this. This is the book of 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. And I'm going to start at verse 7. No. Verse 3. It says, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall come. So that day shall not come except there come in the fall of the way first, and that the men of sin be revealed, the sons of perdition. So, we fell away, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. We fell away, and but at a time, and as I mentioned it before, at one point we were all together, and then eventually went into captivity and slavery, right? But now, but then there's another portion, so that he says, and that the man of sin be revealed, the sons of perdition, right? So the ones that are going into destruction, okay? The ones that cause destruction, the one that has put forth his philosophies where sin and iniquity have abound upon the earth, right? It says he's being revealed. Okay. It says, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called the Most High, or called God, right? So he exalted himself. He put himself to be something that he's not, right? He even put himself over the children of Israel. When you watch, you look at the videos and pictures, he's claimed to be the people of the Bible, right? So that he that sitteth in the temple of the Most High showeth himself that he is the Most High. Remember ye not that when I was yet with you, I told you these things, and now ye know what withholdeth, that he might be revealed in his time, and we're in that time. He's being revealed, and one of those parts of his revelation is this division. It says, for the mystery of iniquity doeth already work. So it was already going on in the time of Paul, and who was in rulership? The Romans. And now we're in what you would hear the prophet say, Rome 2.0. Okay, America is just Rome all over again. And you can look at how, their policies and the Democrats and Republicans, they call them, that you have the buildings and things like that. And it says, revealed in his time. Okay, it says, for the mystery of iniquity doeth already work. Only he who will let until he be taken out of the way. It says, and then shall the wicked be revealed. That's what's happening. Whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, being revealed by the prophets, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. And when he returned, we had jumped ahead, and we got that scripture where he said he's going to have those dyed garments, right? What we just previously speaking on. And he's going to destroy with the brightness of his coming, even him who cometh is after the workings of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders. All right. So, of course, he's coming and he's going to still be working his work, okay, upon the people. Okay. And he's going to be doing these miracles and deceiving many of the people. But, of course, the elect will not be deceived by these things. I hope that this lesson was edifying, uplifting, and exhorting of some sort to the elect body of true believers. Before I end, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Raha HaKadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect scattered throughout the four corners of the globe. Until next time, all those listening and learning to you, I say Shalom.